When I was in middle school, my dad pushed me to perfection in the world of mathematics. So when I would, for example, finish a homework assignment, I had to give it to him, and he would give it back to me, often with the comment, "I think you missed one," but he would not tell me which problem was wrong. And when I would get back a test, and I would hand it to him to show him that I had gotten a 98, for example, rather than celebrating the 98% I got right, he would only ask, "Well, what did you get wrong?" I mention this because I wonder if this is not a good approach to this gospel reading. Jesus, in answer to the question about the greatest commandment, says that we should love God and we should love our neighbor. And maybe rather than concentrating or focusing on those areas where we're really good at that, the ways by which we are good at loving our neighbor and loving God, perhaps we would do well to look at the areas where we struggle. This is going to be different for all of us, perhaps, but I'm just going to try to get us started. Let me offer you 3 ways to not love. The first way would be to lie, because you cannot love somebody by lying to them. Now, I say that knowing that some will think for a moment and realize that, oh, wait, that's not right. They're going to think that, there have been a couple times where I lied out of love because I did not want to hurt the person. But I would ask you to rethink that. I can't imagine any situation where lying to somebody is the loving thing to do. And as a matter of fact, I would challenge you to think back to that moment and ask yourself, well, is it possible that what was really going on was that I just did not want to have an awkward or difficult conversation? And so I was really lying to make it easy on myself. Another way not to love somebody is to put a label on them. That is, take one word or a short phrase and just slap it on them, so to speak. I don't have to tell you why this is wrong, at least many of you, because you know it firsthand, because someone labeled you. This may go back to when you were a kid, when someone said something to you about your looks or your intelligence. Maybe they referred to you as dumb or stupid. And it may well actually be true that in, say, a particular subject in class, you weren't very good at it. But the problem with the label is when they put that on you, it was made to be all of you, as if that was your entire person. You were dumb. And of course you were not. Maybe you had a weakness in one area, but you were perfectly good in so many others. And when someone labels us with something about our looks, that we're fat or we're ugly, well, that's personal preference to begin with. But even if there was truth in it, that doesn't define us. And so when we label other people, whether that's with some sort of description or whether that's putting them in a group of people, and we say, well, that's all you are, you're a member of that group, we do not love those people at all. A third way not to love someone is to be selfish. That's certainly a great way to not love God, is to put yourself first. Have you, perhaps like many others, said something like, well, I just don't have enough time to pray. in that moment when you say that, you're basically saying that, well, there are other things that I want to do, and I put those ahead of God. That's not loving God. So many other examples of this with our time, our talent, our treasure, ways by which we in a very selfish way, if you will, we put ourselves first above God, or indeed above other people. And that's not a way to love. That's just a list to get started. I would really hope that perhaps you, all three of those, you were able to say, oh no, I don't do any of those things. That would be terrific. But I think if you're honest with yourself, you can think of other areas, other ways by which you do not love God or your neighbor. And I would just encourage you to spend some time reflecting on that and concentrating on that, because it's the only way we're going to get better. To return to my dad and math, it worked in that area. Just as Dad sort of really hassled me for those couple of years, I just learned to get better at finding my own mistakes by concentrating on what I wasn't any good at, but my weaknesses. I was able to really get past those, and it really made a big difference to me, especially as I got to higher level math. I would think the same thing would be true for us. If we're willing to be honest and to take a hard look at places in our lives where we don't love others and we don't love God, then maybe we could get better. Because as I read the Gospels, I am constantly reminded of the fact that Jesus does this really well. He loves God, he loves people, and he just seems to do it all the time, and he almost seems to do it with such effort, effortlessly. And I would like that, because I look at Jesus and I realize what a wonderful, happy, fulfilled, meaningful life he lives. And I want that for myself. I'd hope you'd want that too. I'd hope you would want to be like Jesus.